Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first look exploring session of If You Know Not Me, You Know Not Anybody by Thomas Heywood, Part 2. We have already had a first look at Part 1, which you will find on our YouTube. In Part 1, we saw how the virtuous Protestant Princess Elizabeth suffered through and survived her sister Mary's reign to become Queen of England. And now for Part 2, written around 1605. You can find out what happens next. As usual, we're joined by an eclectic and awesome company of volunteer readers. Reading Factor and Tawnycoat this afternoon is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I have many questions about this franchise.
Reading Merchant, Crack, and Dr. Noel is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Gresham and Timothy.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading John.
Hi, I'm Lynn. This is Scooter. We live in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Nimble Chaps and Ramsey.
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm in Hull.
Reading Hobson and Honesty.
Rachel, actor on the East Coast.
And reading Boy, Lady Ramsey and Quick.
Riley Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
And I'm your temporary host, Aliki Chappel. I'll be reading stage directions and wrangling the discussion. So here we go. Act 1, well, no, not Act 1, just Scene 1. Scene 1, enter one of Gresham's factors and a Barbary merchant.
My master, sir, requests your company about confirming certain covenants touching your last night's conference.
The Sugars, believe me, to his credit be it spoken, he is a man of heedful providence, and one that by innocent courtesy wins love from strangers. Be it without offence, how are his present fortunes reckoned?
Neither to flatter nor detract from him, he is a merchant of good estimate, care how to get and forecast to increase, if so they be accounted be his faults.
There are special virtues, being clear from avarice and base extortion.
Enter Gresham.
But here he comes. Good day to Master Gresham. You keep your word.
Else should I ill deserve the title that I wear. A merchant's tongue should not strike false.
What think you of my proffer touching the sugar?
I bethought myself both of the gain and losses incident, and this, I take it, was the whole circumstance. It was my motion, and I think your promise, to get me a sealed patent from your king for all your Barbary sugars at a price during the king's life, and for his princely love, I am to send him 70,000 pounds.
'Twas so conditioned, and to that effect, his highness' promise is already past. And if you dare give credit to my trust, send but your private letters to your factor that deals for your affairs in Barbary. His Majesty shall either seal your patent, or I'll return the money to your factor.
As much as I desire. Pray, sir, draw near and taste a cup of wine, whilst I consider and thoroughly scan such accidental doubts as may concern a matter of such moment.
At our best leisure.
Exit the merchant.
I'll resolve you straight. Bethink thee, Gresham, 70,000 pounds, a good round sum. Let not the hope of gain draw thee to loss. I am to have a patent for all the Barbary sugars at a rate. The gain clears half in half, but then the hazard. My term continues during the king's life. The king may die before my first return. Then where's my cash? Why? So the king may live these 40 years. Then where is Gresham's gain? It stands in this, as in all ventures else, doubtful. No more I'll through, whate'er it cost. So much clear so much clear gain, or so much coin clear loss. Within there, ho?
Enter John Gresham. Wasn't he already on stage? 2 or 3 factors.
At hand, sir, did you call?
How thrives our cash? What, is it well increased? I speak like one that must be forced to borrow.
Your worship's merry.
Merry? Tell me, knave, dost thou not think that 70,000 pounds would make an honest merchant try his friends?
Yes, by my faith, sir, but you have a friend would not see you stand out for twice the sum.
Praise God for all. But what's the common rumour touching my bargain with the King of Barbary?
'Tis held your credit and your country's honour that being but a merchant of the city and taken in a manner unprovided, you should upon a mere presumption and naked promise part with so much cash, which the best merchants both in Spain and France denied to venture on.
Good, but withal, what do they think in general of the bargain?
That if the king confirm and seal your patent, London will yield you partners enow.
I think no less. Go fit you for the sea. I mean to send you into Barbary, you unto Venice, you to Portugal. Provide you presently, where much is spent, some must be got, thrift should be provident. Come hither, cousin, all the rest depart.
Exeunt factors.
I had as good depart too, for he'll ring a peal in mine ear, 'twill found worse than a passing bell.
I have taken notice of your bad husbandry, careless respect, and prodigal expense, and out of my experience counsel you.
And I hope, good uncle, that you think I am as ready to take good counsel as you to give it, and I doubt not but to clear myself of all objections that foul mouth envy shall intimate against me.
How can you satisfy the great complaint preferred against you by old Mistress Blunt, a woman of approved honesty?
That's true. Her honesty hath been proved oftener than once or twice. But do you know her, uncle? Are you inward with her course of life? She's a common midwife for trade fallen virginity. There are more maidenheads charged and discharged in her house than pieces at artillery yard.
She brings in further proof that you miscalled her.
I never called her out of her name. By this hand, uncle, to my remembrance.
No, she says you called her a bawd.
True, and I have known her to answer 1,000 times. Tut, uncle, 'tis her name, and I know who gave it her too. By the same token, her godfather gave her a bowed angel, standing at the door, which she had kept time out of mind.
Antonio reports you love his wife.
Love? Why, alas, uncle, I hold it parcel of my duty to love my neighbors, and I should hate his wife no man would hold me a fit member of the Commonwealth.
He hates you for it.
Why, alas, uncle, that's not my fault. I'll love him nevertheless. You know, we are commanded to love our enemies, and though he would see me hanged, yet I will love his wife.
He told me you bestowed a gown off a strumpet.
Why, alas, uncle, the poor whore went naked. And you know the text commands us to clothe the naked. And deeds of mercy be imputed unto us for faults. God help the elect.
Well, if your prodigal expenses be aimed at any virtuous and religious end, 'tis the more tolerable, and I am proud you can so probably excuse yourself.
I've completely lost my place. What?
Well, uncle, to approve my words?
Well, uncle, to approve my words, as indeed good words without deeds are like your green fig without tree without fruit, I have sworn myself to a more comfortable and strict course of life.
Well, cousin, hoping you'll prove a new man.
A new man? What else, Uncle? I'll be a new man from top to toe, or I'll want my will. Instead of tennis court, my morning exercise shall be at St. Antlin's. I'll leave ordinaries to the end that I may forswear dicing and drabbing. Keep me more short, Uncle. Only allow me good apparel. Good rags, I'll stand to it, are better than 7 years' apprenticeship. For they'll make a man free of any, nay, of all companies without indenture, father's copy, or any license whatsoever. But I see my error, Uncle. Youth must be bridled. Keep me short, good Uncle.
On these presumptions I'll apparel thee, and to confirm this resolution, I will prefer you unto Master Hobson, a man of well-known discretion.
Anything, good Uncle. I have served my apprenticeship already, but bind me again, and I shall be content. And 'tis but reason, neither. Send me to the conduit with the water tankard. I'll beat linen bucks or anything to redeem my negligence.
Your education challenges more respect. The factor dealt for him in France is dead.
And you intend to send me to his room?
I do indeed.
'Tis well done, Uncle, and will not be amiss in policy to do so. The only way to curb a dissolute youth as I am is to send him from his acquaintance. And therefore send me far enough, good Uncle. Send me unto France, and spare not. And if that reclaim me not, give me o'er as part of all goodness.
Now, for God, my thoughts were much against him, and my intent was to have chid him roundly. But his submissive recantation hath made me friends with him. Come, follow me. He do thee good, and that immediately.
Thank you, good Uncle. You'll send me to France, all for boon, and I do not show you the right trick of a cousin afore I leave England. I'll give you leave to call me Cut, and cousin me of my patrimony as you have done.
Thank you. That's the end of scene 1, in which we've had a series of discussions about sugar contracts and then about whether a young man is wasting his life or not, I suppose. Thoughts about that scene, please. Lynn?
Yeah, just I thought I would toss in that the American historian Robert Buchholz says that sugar was the oil of its day. It's probably the most important thing on the international commodities market. Huge quantities of sugar being moved. So there's a lot of money at stake, which the dialogue implies. But yeah, sugar is an enormously important international commodity. So there's big money in sugar import export.
Yeah. I have almost no idea how markets worked in the early modern time, or indeed now, so I'm a bit puzzled by all of the business talk. Could anybody make more sense of it? Helen, can you tell us what happened?
Yes, he's making a wild speculation. He's getting a monopoly of import of sugar from Barbary. Now, whether the merchant he's talking to is a Barbary merchant or an English merchant, I don't know, but he may very well be a Barbary merchant. But the plan is highly speculative, and it depends entirely on the life of the king, and all other things being equal. But he stands to make a massive amount of money or lose a massive amount of money.
That's Gresham then taking a huge risk to corner the sugar market. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Did anyone think that Gresham was so too easily dissuaded by John? John seems to have this very, very, raucous reputation. And every time Gresham comes up with something John's supposed to have done, he kind of flips the script on him and kind of says, oh no, that strumpet was, the Bible says we should clothe the poor. And so I clothed her, and I just think that he's a little bit too easily dissuaded from John's alleged dalliances.
There was something very reminiscent of a clown in John's responses there. Oh, you think it means I'm this, but actually, flip it all. Yeah. Lynn.
Although at the end of that scene, Gresham's like, well, whatever, I'm sending you out of the country to be my agent in France. So I don't know that he buys all the excuses because he ends up saying, okay, kid, whatever, but you're going away. And I think his hope is that separated from bad company, he'll kind of start a new life.
Yeah, here's some money to go to Paris. I'm sure you'll be virtuous from now on.
Yeah.
Yes, Helen.
Yeah. The other thing about it is that John has obviously a little devious, because he's saying, oh, uncle, you're so good to me. You're so wonderful. Please don't give me more money. That's the way to deal with me. Oh, by no means, send me to France. What a brilliant idea. But he says, provided you dress me well, I don't mind. Because being well dressed means I can do practically anything. But he also says at the end, after Gresham's left, that he reckons that Gresham has diddled him out of his inheritance.
Yeah.
So there's more to the relationship between Gresham and his nephew. And the nephew isn't saying, uncle, you've diddled me out of my inheritance. So there's something going on.
Okay, well, that's an interesting setup. Alan, then Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, there was a mention earlier on of the amount of consideration that Gresham was proposing to pay, which was £60,000, which would be a young fortune even now, but at the time would be an incredible amount of money. Maybe Helen can contextualize that for us a bit.
Multiply by 300 and add a bit is my rule of thumb.
Couple of million quid.
At least.
Rachel, you're muted.
No, it was a question for Helen. If somebody was outside of England and they were English and they wanted to take a suit against another Englishman, but they weren't in the country, could they move forward in that suit if the nephew wanted to sue for his inheritance, even if the guy doesn't have it anymore? Would he even be able to if you suspected somebody of squandering your fortune? And would you be able to get out of the country?
Yes, he could take his uncle to court wherever he was at the time, but it would be in England that the suit would be brought. But there must be a reason why he doesn't do it, either because his uncle is so massively rich that he'll, in the long term, do better by staying friends with him, or possibly he doesn't have a very good case.
Lynn, do you have something to say? But I do want
he might still be a minor also, right?
Yes, he says he's passed through an apprenticeship, which would possibly make him very close to being of age, if not of age. But as you say, he may still be a minor.
In which case he basically has no legal standing, right?
No. Well, yes and no, but he has a lot less.
Yeah. So
let's move on to scene 2 and see what else we can find out. If you have any burning issues, put them in the chat or talk about them next time. So, scene 2, enter Hobson's prentices.
Prithee, fellow goodman, set forth the ware and look to the shop a little. He but drinks a cup of wine with a customer at the Rose and Crown in the Poultry, and come again presently.
But I cannot. I must needs step to the Dagger in Cheap to send a letter into the country unto my father. Stand by. You are the youngest prentice. You look to the shop.
Enter Hobson.
Where be these varlets, bones on me, at tavern? Knaves, villains, spend goods, foot my customers, must either serve themselves or pack unserved. Now they peep like Italian pantaloons behind an arras. But I'll start you, knaves. I have a shoeing horn to draw up your liquor. What say you to a piece of salt eel? Come forth, you hang dogs, bones a me. The knaves fleer in my face, they know me too well. I talk and prate, and late not on their jacks, and the proud jacks care not a fig for me. But bones on me, I'll turn another leaf. Where have you been, sir?
An honest customer requested me to drink a pint of wine.
Bones on me, must your crimson throat be scored with wine? Your master's glad of beer, but you'll die banquet routs, knaves and banquet routs all. And where have you been?
At breakfast with a dagger pie, sir.
A dagger pie? Goods? Dagger's death? These knaves sit cock a hoop, but Hobson pays for all. But bones on me, knaves, either mend you manners, leave alehouses, taverns, and tippling mates, your punks and cockatrices, or I'll clap ye closely and bride well. Bones on me, I'll do't.
It shall be done, sir. How much you have?
Hang on.
Sorry.
Beseech you, sir.
First.
Hang on, we're a bit
Oh,
lost.
sorry. Sorry, my fault. Beseech you, sir. Pardon the first offence.
First, bones on me, why, 'tis your common course, and you must needs be gusting, go by turns. One to the alehouse, and two keep the shop.
Enter Peddler with a tawny coat.
It shall be done, sir. How much ware would you have?
5 pounds worth in such commodities as I bespoke last night.
They're ready sorted.
God bless you, Master Hobson.
Bones on me, knave, thou'rt welcome. What's the news at Bawdy Barnwell and at Sturbridge Fair? What, have your London wenches any trading?
After the old sort, sir, they visit the toll booth and the bullring still.
Good girls, they do their kind. What, your pack's empty? Good news, a sign you bring your purses full. And bones on me, full purses must be welcome. Sort out their wares, welcome your due. Pay the old debt and pen and ink for new.
We have for you, sir, as white as bear's teeth.
Bones on me, knaves, you are welcome, but what news? What news of the country? What commodities are most respected with your country girls?
Faith, sir, our country girls are akin to your London courtiers, every month sick of a new fashion. The homing busk and silken bride laces are in good request, with the parson's wife your huge poking stick, and French periwig with chambermaids and waiting women. Now your Puritan's poker is not so huge, but somewhat longer. A long, slender poking stick is the all in your Suffolk Puritan. And your silk band, half farthingales, and changeable forepart are common. Not a wench of 13, but whereas changeable forepart.
An ancient wearing. There's some changeable fluff, has been aware with women time out of mind.
Besides, sir, many of our young married men obtain an order to wear yellow garters, points, and shootings, and this sort yellow will grow accustomed.
Has been used long at London.
And 'tis thought 'twill come in request in the country too, for a fashion that 3 or 4 young wenches have promised me their husbands shall wear, or they'll miss of their marks. Then your mask, silk lace, washed gloves, carnation girdles, and busk point suitable as common as coals from Newcastle. You shall not have a kitchen maid scrape trenches without her washed gloves. A dairy wench will not ride to market to sell her buttermilk without her mask and her busk.
Still a good hearing. Let the country pay well for their pride. 'Tis gratis here at London, and that's the cause 'tis grown so general. But feed their humors and do not spare. Bring country money for our London wear.
And enter Gresham and John Gresham.
Where's Master Hobson? Cry you mercy, sir.
No harm, good Master Gresham. Pray draw near. I'll but dispatch a few old customers and bend a present ear to your discourse.
At your best leisure.
Nay, my task is done. O Master Gresham, 'twas a golden world when we were boys, an honest country yeoman, such as our fathers were, God rest their souls, would wear white cuirass. Bones on me, you knaves, stools for these gentlemen, your worship's welcome.
You know my business.
About your kinsman, he shall be welcome. Beseech you, gentlemen, less of your courtesy. When shall we see the youth?
Why, this is he.
Which, bones on me, which?
Why, this.
Which, where, what, this young gentleman? Bones on me, man, he's not for Hobson's turn. He looks more like my master than my servant.
I must confess he is a gentleman, and my near kinsman. Were he mine own child, his service should be yours.
I thank you for it, and for your sake I'll give him entertainment. But gentlemen, if you become my man, you must become more civil, bones on me. What a curled pate is here. I must hat off. You see my livery. Hobson's men are known by their frieze coats, and you will dwell with me. You must be plain and leave off bravery.
I hope, sir, to put on such civil conformity as you shall not repent my entertainment.
Pray God it prove so.
If he do respect an uncle's love, let him be diligent.
Well, Master Gresham, partly for your love, and chiefly to supply my present want, because you say your kinsman is well seen, both in languages and factorship, I do intend to send him into France, in trust both with my merchandises and my cash.
And if I take not order to cashier that and myself too, a pox of all French farthingales.
How stand you minded to your master's motion?
Somewhat unwilling to leave my acquaintance, but good uncle, I know you send me out of love, and I hope 'twill be a means to call me home the sooner.
Pray God it may.
I'll want my will, else I'll play a merchant part with you. I'll take up French commodities, velvet kirtles, and taffety 4 parts. I'll have that I go for, or I'll make half the hothouses in Dieppe smoke for this trick.
What, are your books made even with our compte?
I've compared our wares with our receipt and find, sir, £10 difference.
Bones on me, knave. £10 in a morning. Here's the fruit of dagger pies and alehouse guzzlings. Make even your reckonings, or bones on me, knaves. You shall all smart for't.
Hark you, fellow goodman. Who took the £10 of the country chapman that told my master the new fashions?
For God, not I.
Nor I.
Bones on me, knaves. I have paid soundly for my country news. What was his name?
Oh, for God, I know not.
I ne'er saw him in the shop till now.
Now, bones on me, what careless knaves keep eye. Give me the book. What habit did he wear?
As I remember me, a tawny coat.
Art sure? Then set him down, John Tawnycoat.
£10 in trust unto John Tawnycoat.
Bones on me, man, these knaves will beggar me.
By a lady, sir, £10 is too much to lose, but 10 times £10 cannot shake your credit.
Thank God for all. When I came first to town, it would have shook me shrewdly. But Master Gresham, how stands your difference with Sir Thomas Ramsay? Are you made friends yet?
He is so obstinate that neither juries nor commissions, nor the entreaties of his nearest friends can stoop him unto composition.
'Tis passing strange. Were Hobson in your coat, ere I'd consume a penny amongst lawyers, I'd give to poor people, bones on me, I would.
A good resolve, but Sir Thomas Ramsay's mind is of another temper, and ere Gresham will give away a title of his right, the law shall beggar me.
Bones on me, man, 'twill do that quickly.
To prevent which course, the Lady Ramsay hath by earnest suit procured the Reverend Preacher Dr. Noel, a man well reckoned for his grave respect, to compromise and end our difference. The place, the Lombard, 10 o'clock the hour, appointed for the hearing of our cause. Shall I request your friendly company?
With all my heart, both company and purse. Bones on me, knaves, look better to my shop. Men of our trade must wear good husbands' eyes. Mongst many chapmen, there are few but that buys. My leisure now your business attends. Time's won, not lost, that's spent to make men friends.
Excellent. Okay, so that was a busy little scene there. What do we make of that? We have the two apprentices and Bones and me Hobson, who don't appear to be running a terribly efficient business since they've let £10 walk out the door. And that's who John Gresham is to be apprenticed to and sent off to France, right? Further thoughts?
Bones and me, I thought Gresham was sending John to France, but now it's Hobson sending John to France.
Both.
Yeah, I think Hobson is the means by which he is sending John to France.
Okay.
Helen, then Alan?
Yes, it's a very interesting sidelight into a shop which is effectively a wholesaler for peddlers. So they've got everything. And the first thing he wants to know from any peddler who comes in is what's selling where? Mm-hmm. What do we need to get? And it is I mean, we've seen peddlers before in plays, but we've never seen peddlers at their wholesalers.
And
haberdashers.
And Tawnycoat the peddler just gave a whole bunch of very entertaining information and seems to have restocked without paying. Yeah.
This is true.
Lynn, you were saying something?
Oh, okay. I was wondering what kind of shop even is this? And one thing I did catch though is when the Tawnycoat peddler was talking about yellow is really fashionable. Yellow was probably achieved with saffron at this point. It was like the second most expensive dye next to purple. So that's really quite it's really quite pretentious, like country people wearing yellow, because yellow was a very labor intensive dye to produce. It was really expensive.
Alan.
Yeah, I think on the yellow point, there's probably a gag going on there relating to the Suffolk Puritans, because anything beyond black and white and possibly plain homespun would have been regarded as being not in accordance with the puritanical approach. But Tawnycoat also seems to be playing a bit of a clown role in terms of he got that extended riff with all sorts of potential for nudge, nudge, wink, wink, dirty gags, which I suspect on stage would probably have been played very heavily to the groundlings.
Rachel.
I was going to ask if there was anything like a debtor's prison in this period.
Helen?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally, completely. Known
You've got
as
to
the
catch them
counter.
first.
Yeah, known as the counter.
Eric? Sorry. I'm sorry, Helen. Did I interrupt you?
No, there are loads of counters. Most of the areas of London would have one.
Eric,
I believe.
was that a hand?
I was just going to say that the whole Tawny Coat coming in part just made me think of Fagin from Oliver Twist for some reason. I don't know. He seems that kind of character where he's like trusted or trustworthy looking, but not quite.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of jokes that are not as immediately available to us as they would have been to the original audience, but quite a few still leapt out as being sufficiently filthy to amuse the moderns. Okay. Rachel, was that another?
Yeah, I was also going to say that Gresham says something that's kind of interesting and kind of parallels today a bit, that when they're writing down Tawny Coat for £10, that he was saying if it was 10 times or 100 times that amount, you know, he wouldn't be called on it or something. But 10 times £10 cannot shake your credit. That it's kind of like maybe that idea of too big to fail that's been adopted in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he tells us how recently that's happened. When I first came, that I would have been broken by a tenor. Helen, yes.
Yes, I mean, when you look at Hobson, who, for all his bluster, doesn't actually seem to be too bad. I mean, he's constantly telling his apprentices off, but he isn't actually hitting them or having, you know, that he isn't actually behaving particularly badly towards them. But if you think of the level at which he is dealing in £10 worth of pack goods or £5 worth of pack goods, and then you put that against the amount that Gresham was talking about for his sugar monopoly, there's an enormous difference between them.
Yeah, and class is mentioned in the scene. It's like, what do you mean? He doesn't look like my servant, this John. He looks like my employer, because he is of the employer class.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a big class difference there. But John has behaved so badly that he's been demoted to be a factor for Hobson in France.
Well, let's see what happens next. Unless any other further thoughts? No. Scene 3. Enter Dr. Noel and my Lady Ramsay.
Good Master Dr. Noel, let your love now show itself unto me, such as they, men of the chiefest note within this city, to be at such a jar doth make me blush, whom it doth scarce concern. You are a good man. Take you the course in hand, and make them friends. 'Twill be a good day's work, if so it ends.
Lady Ramsay, I've heard ere this of their contentions, their long suit in law, how by good friends they've been persuaded both, yet both but deaf to fair persuasion. What good will my word do with headstrong men? Breath blown against the wind returns again.
Although to gentlemen and citizens they have been so rash, yet to so grave a man, of whom none speak, but speak with reverence, whose words are gathered in by every ear, as flowers receive the dew that comfort them, they will be more attentive. Pray, take it in hand, 'tis a good deed, 'twill with your virtue stand.
To be a make-beast doth become me well, the charitable motion good in you, and in good sooth, 'twill make me wet mine eyes to see them have been so long at odds. By my means I'll do the best I can, but God must bless my words, for man's but man.
Enter Sir Thomas Ramsay.
I thank you heartily, and by the hour I know they will be presently here on the Lombard, whither I drew you for this intent, and see, Sir Thomas is come. Pray break with him.
Good day to Sir Thomas Ramsay.
Master Dean of Paul's, as much to you. 'Tis strange to see you here in Lombard Street, this place of traffic whereon merchants meet.
'Tis not my custom, but Sir Thomas.
Enter Master Gresham and old Hobson.
Come, come. Now, body ah me, I swear not every day you are too much to blame. Two citizens, such as yourself and Sir Thomas Ramsay are, to beat yourselves in law 6 or 7 year, make lawyers, tourneys, clerks, and names to spend your money in a brabbling controversy, even like two fools. See where the other is. With our Dean of Paul's, ne'er better met, we two as umpires will conclude a strife before the clock strike 12, and now is 11. Lawyers this full 7 year have brabbled in, and with a cup or two of merry go down, make them shake hands. Is't not well said, Master Dean?
And I could wittish as well done, Master Hobson.
I'll have you both know, though you are my friends, I scorn my cause should stoop or yield to him, although he be reputed Ramsay the Rich.
And Gresham shall perceive that Ramsay's purse shall make him spend the wealth of Osterley, but he shall know.
No, what shall I know?
That Ramsay is as good a man as Gresham.
And Gresham is as good a man as Ramsay.
Ah, tut, tut, tut.
Tut in thy teeth, although thou art a knight.
Bones ah me, you are both to blame. We two like friends come to conclude your strife, and you like fishwives fall a scolding here.
How stands the difference twixt you, my good friends?
The impatience both of the one and other will not permit to hear each other speak. I'll tell the cause for both, and thus it is. There is a lordship called Osterley, that Master Gresham hath both bought and built upon.
And 'tis a goodly manor, Master Dean.
Which Osterley, before he dealt therein, Sir Thomas, my husband here, did think to buy, and had given earnest for it.
Then Gresham here deals with the land seller and buys my bargain most dishonestly.
God for his mercy, touch mine honesty. Away with compromise, with taking up. The law shall try my cause and honesty.
'Twill prove no better than it should, Gresham.
'Twill prove as good as Ramsay's, Ramsay.
Do I not know thy rising?
Aye, and I know thine.
Why, mine was honesty.
And so was mine.
Hey day, Bones ah me. Wast ever seen two men to scold before? Here's, I know thy rising, and I know thine. When as God's blessing that hath raised them both? Am I worse because in Edward's days, when popery went down, I did engross most of the beads that were within the kingdom, that when Queen Mary had renewed that church, they that would prey on beads were forced to me? I made them stretch their purse strings, grew rich thereby. Beads were to me a good commodity.
No matter for your beads. My right's my right.
Yet Gresham shall well know he hath done me wrong.
There's law enough to right you. Take your course.
Reason being man's guide, why'st that force and violent passions do sweep the soul into such headlong mischiefs? 'Tis only this, reason would rule, nature a rebel is. You know the fire of your contention hath only cherishing, and is maintained from vile affections, whose strength's but this, at sundry heat doth make shun the fire, and extreme cold doth alter that desire. All things that have beginnings have their ends. Your hate must have conclusion. Then be friends.
Friends, Master Dr. Noel, look you here. Here's Master Gresham's hand.
I'll bring the other.
This 7 year they have been in law together. How much such men as they in 7 years spend, lawyers may laugh at, but let wise men judge.
Friend Hobson?
Wise lady.
Bones on me, I'll hold you fast. I will not have a couple of such men make cackling lawyers rich and themselves fools, and for a trifling cause, as I am old Hobson.
Sir Thomas Ramsay?
Master Gresham.
Body of me, both shall be schooled. Master Dr. Noel, you know the cause, that this contention is only that he bought a piece of land. This had given earnest for all Adam's earth, and Adam's earth is free for Adam's sons, and 'tis a shame men should contend for it. Whate'er you speak shall for a sentence stand, and being spoke, they shall shake hand in hand.
If I must then decide the difference, thus it shall be, because that Sir Thomas Ramsay had earnest given before you bought the land, though you were not acquainted with so much, I do award he have £100 towards his charges. And for that you have both paid for the land and built upon it, it shall continue yours. The money you have spent, either account it lost or badly lent.
God's precious! I have spent £500.
And so have I.
No matter, the judgment stands, only this verdict too. Had you before the law foreseen the loss, you had not now come home by weeping cross. Strifes may as well have end twixt honest men. Lawyers set fools to law and then laugh at them.
'Fore God, 'tis true, and now I think upon it, we might at first have ended it by friends, and made ourselves merry with the money. But being done, 'tis done. Then, Sir Thomas Ramsay, let's leave both losers. 'Tis but £1,000, and if you be as well content as I, here we'll shake hands and let our anger die.
Shake hands, by the merry God. Sir Thomas, what else?
You show yourselves our friends to make us friends. Then in good sooth, I'll not be obstinate.
Nay, Master Dr. Nowell, join their hands. I know the reverent regard of you hath tempered both their hearts.
Madam, 'tis true. I think to any but so good a man, we should have had both been headstrong. But come.
With all my heart, long may you live together, as friend should be to friend, brother to brother.
Amen, amen, Sir Thomas.
Amen, amen, Master Gresham.
Amen, amen to you both. And is not this better than every term to trot after lawyers?
Good sooth, 'tis true, if we could think it so. But 'tis man's nature, he desires his woe.
A storm.
Now, passion o' me, Sir Thomas, a cruel storm, and we stay long, we shall be wet to the skin. I do not like it, nay, it angers me, that such a famous city as this is, wherein so many gallant merchants are, have not a place to meet in, but in this, where every shower of rain must trouble them. I cannot tell, but if I live, let's step into the Pope's head. We shall be dropping dry if we stay here. I'll have a roof built, and such a roof that merchants and their wives, friends and their friends, shall walk underneath it, as now in pools. What day of the month is this?
Master Gresham, day? Let me see. I took a fellow's word for £20. The 10th of March, the 10th of March.
The 10th of March? Well, if I live, Our razor work shall make our merchants say 'twas a good shower that fell upon that day. How now, Jack?
Enter John Gresham.
Sir, my master having preferred me to be his factor into France, I am come to take my leave of you.
I thank him for his care of thee. Master Hobson, my kinsman's come to take his leave of me. He tells me you are sending him for France.
Bons amis, knave, art there yet? I thought thou hadst been halfway there by this.
I did but stay, sir, to take leave of my uncle.
Oh, Master Hobson, he comes in a very good time. I was bethinking me whom I should send to fetch this £100 I am set to pay to Sir Thomas Ramsay. Nay, as we are friends, we'll have all covenants kept before we part.
God grant that I may see it.
Here, John, take this sealed ring. Bid Timothy presently send me £100.
Aye, sir.
I am sure he hath it ready told for thee. We'll stay here on the lumbar till thou comest.
Yes, sir.
Nay, stay, good John. Thou knowest my dwelling, John?
In Paul's churchyard, sir.
The £100 thou art sent for, bring it thither.
Oh, yes, marry. Will I, sir?
Exit John.
And my good friends, since that so long a strife hath end by my persuasion, I'll entreat my house may entertain you for this time, where with such necessaries we'll pass the time as God shall best be pleased, and you contented. I keep no riot, nor you look for none, only my table is for everyone.
A cup of sack, and welcome, Master Dean. Nature is best contented with a mean.
Exeunt. So here we've had a scene where two people who've been suing each other for years are bullied by their friends into dropping the suit. Okay. Thoughts on that scene, Lynn?
I'm just wondering why the original owner of the property, who promised it to Ramsay and then sold it to Gresham, isn't one of the litigants. I mean, he's the one that basically took the earnest money and then sold it to somebody else. Why is it just because it doesn't serve the play, or is there a legality here that I don't understand? Helen?
At a guess, I would say it's to do with the play. It would just be far too confusing to introduce a 7-year-old vendor. I mean, a vendor from 7 years back.
So we've talked about class before in this play, and there's a class element here too. We have a knight on the one hand and a wealthy merchant on the other. Any further thoughts? Yeah, Alan.
I've a feeling, and this was from, because I looked briefly at this piece to do the casting thing. I have a feeling that Ramsay has been or will be Lord Mayor, and that at that time would have come automatically with the knighthood.
Okay. Yep. Any other thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly the play's take on this is, but it's definitely concerned with status and the instability of status, because the Ramsay and Gresham talk about your rising or my rising, and that's their elevation in material success, getting rich, but it's also the sort of status that you gain by being rich, even if you don't have a title, or even if you're not a gentleman. So this was a period when the old categories were not as stable as they had been, and so there's this concern with rising socially and rising economically.
I also note that this is the sequel to a play that was almost entirely about the court and who was going to be queen.
Right.
And this has all been about money and merchants. Helen?
Yeah, Gresham did have a tiny part in the previous play, if you remember, actually managed to save the Queen's life by noticing that there was an execution warrant being slipped in. But I think we would be wrong to assume that just because one is called part one and the other is called part two, that that was the order in which they were written. I think that's still up in the air.
Okay, but they definitely take place, the one before, and part one earlier and part two second.
They're set. One is set earlier than the other, yes.
Mm-hmm. But still, they don't, so far at least, seem to be hugely connected, other than by the presence of Gresham in part one.
Yeah.
Let's see if we get Eric. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, but technically there is I can't remember what part. It was Tony who mentioned earlier that sort of, yeah, pretty much everyone who's lower class behaves like they're upper class. They're like your London courtiers. So maybe that's sort of a dig at both London courtiers and at anyone else who's not a London courtier.
Helen?
I love the way Hobson's made his money. When under Edward, rosary beads were banned, he bought them all, hung on to them for 5 years or so, and then when suddenly everybody needed them, he was the sole supplier.
Yeah,
and made an absolute packet on them.
A wonderful illustration of the principles of profit, buy low, sell high.
On the other hand, had Edward or Edward's successor been Protestant, he would have made a loss.
Bryony, is that a raised hand? Yeah.
Yeah, just on back to what we were saying before about them being nouveau riche. I think that kind of makes people that much easier to swindle, like in terms of these guys and their argument by whichever lawyer's getting rich off them, because it's all about this status and this idea of wealth. So they almost have to act as if, well, it doesn't matter, the principle is the thing. I'll throw some more cash at this because, I've got enough. And it's almost that's like could potentially be their downfall.
Yep. I wonder how this play so far would work for a modern audience. What are you guys thinking? Are you engaged by it? Do you think people would be engaged by it? What could we do for it? Helen?
Well, the situations are very modern.
Mm.
You've got a haberdasher, a wholesaler selling odds and ends. You've got a man who goes round fairs selling the stuff. You've got two men with more money than sense spending all their wealth on lawyers over a trifle of 7 years back, which is happening every day. And you've got a young man who is apparently utterly unreliable, being trusted by people who ought to know better.
Well, let's find out how unreliable he is, huh? Scene 4. Enter Timothy and John Gresham.
As I told you, Timothy, you must send my uncle straight £100. He dines at Dr. Noel's and gave me in charge to haste with the money after him.
Come to me, John, for £100. I thank my spiritual maker. I have the charge of many hundreds of his now, John. I hope, John, you fear God.
Fear God? What else? I fear God and the devil too.
I must tell you, John, and I know it, you have not fed off the spiritual food, but edified by faith and suffered the tares of the world affections to be burnt.
Thou wouldst not have me make myself a French martyr to be burnt at these years, wouldst thou?
I have known them, John, of our church, have been burnt for other sins before thy years.
By my faith, Timothy, it may be you have, for as close as you carry your teeth together with indeed good brother, I do not think, but once a year a man might find you quartered betwixt the mouth at Bishopsgate and the preaching place in the Spittal.
Now you talk of the Spittal, I must say, in very deed, I have been in the Spittal.
It is more like, Timothy, you have been acquainted with the pox then.
But if you should think, John, that I would be there to commit, deal, or to speak more profanely, to venture in the way of all flesh, you do wrong me, being a brother of the faith.
Come, write yourself and your master then, and send him this £100. Here's his sealed ring. I hope a warrant sufficient.
Upon so good security, John, I'll fit me to deliver it.
Exit Timothy.
Spend it. God send me but once a finger it, if I do not make a Flanders reckoning on it. And that is, as I have heard mad wags say, receive it here and revel it away in another place. Let me be spit out of the room of a good fellowship and never have so much favor as to touch the skirt of a taffeta petticoat. Tut, I am young, and mine uncle's an old chuff, and I'll not want in faith, since he hath enough. I must not let this same wainscot face, yea and nay, hear me though.
Enter Timothy.
Here, John, accept my duty to my master. I must tell you, John, I would not have trusted you, John, without so sufficient a discharge.
I am the less beholding unto you. But now I have it, because you preached to me upon my demand of it. I'll be so bold to lecture you upon your delivery. Timothy, you know the proverb, good Timothy, that the still sow eats all the draught, and no question, the most smoother-tongued fellow, the more arrant knave. God forbid I should call you so, Timothy, yet I will leave this for your further remembrance. Under the yea and nay makes all his sayings, yet proves a Judas in his dealings. Shall have this written o'er his grave, thy life seemed pure, yet died a knave. Much cozenage finds many a lie. He that with yea and nay men often buy.
Do you hear, John? You know the chapman's word in London. I'll trust you, but no further than I see you. You have the £100, John, but for that you have wronged us that love to be edified. I will go with you to my master and see the money delivered.
Why, trusted me to come with it?
I care not. By yea or nay, I'll go. By yea or nay, I will.
Let me but ask thee this question, whether thou dost go in any love to thy master or to me.
Though my master be my master, yet you have stirred my stomach.
I thought there was the fruit of your Puritan patience. Come, let's along, and I do not show your religion a trick, shall scarce be digested with pippins or cheese. Let me be called cut. Come along.
Okay, so we've said before in the chat that John has quite a few asides, and in this one it's a very clear aside. He's alone on stage telling us all, I shouldn't be trusted with anything, let alone £100. Thoughts on this scene? Eric nodding wisely there. You have to speak up, mate.
Yeah, I was just saying that I love sort of this whole thing of, oh, I'm not insulting you, I'm just saying, you know, the saying, the proverb, of course. Yeah.
Bryony.
I was just wondering, because it's the second time that somebody said it, whether or not there's like a more of a meaning to this "let me be called cut" thing.
Wasn't it John who said it before too?
Add an N.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not too sure of that, but you could be right. But yes, I think it deserves a bit of research before we definitively plump for the N.
That's That's an annotation I remember seeing in a scholarly edition of a play we're not allowed to mention. So
Please
Okay.
don't.
Fair enough.
Eric in the chat also says it could be cur, which is another interesting thought.
No, I think cut. I've heard it. Let me not be called cut before.
Okay, I'm just going to make a note of that. Any other thoughts on this scene between the two young men? Helen and Eric, please.
Yeah, I think we've got a really tedious, boring Puritan here. We've got one of the very godly. What interests me is the way he keeps on calling him by his name. He keeps on repeating John, John, John.
Mm-hmm.
And then John picks it up and starts Timothy, Timothy, Timothy. But I think this may have been a Puritan trait, something that they did. And of course, he seizes the opportunity to say, I hope you fear God. And obviously, John is not a follower of the Puritan way of life.
yeah, there was a particular sect where they refused to acknowledge titles and called everyone by their Christian name.
Yeah,
somebody.
No. This would be the Friends, the Quakers, but this was later. Oh. That was later. I think these are much earlier Puritans.
And prejudiced as I am against Puritans, being descended from them, I can't help but notice that he's right. I mean, he's the only person who's really kind of picked up on how dishonest John is and isn't trusting him. I'm sorry, there was another raised hand and I've forgotten who it was. Was it Eric? I see you, Alan. Someone else before you. Eric, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there's so many references to clothing and types of clothing in this play. Like we've only done anyway, 4 scenes. And it's like, we've got so many textures and like, I don't know, there was discussion of velvet and sort of busk and things and things that I don't know about. Just interesting to mention.
Okay, very quickly, Alan, because I don't want to run out.
Yeah, I will try and make it March. Basically, I can see you could actually set this in London in the 1980s, because a number of these characters would fit very well with the yuppies, the market, the traders that had their ascendancy in that period, with no noticeable sense of ethics or honesty.
And who would be the Puritans in the 80s?
Those few who actually managed to tell the truth, but usually got shut down by the media.
Okay. Any other quick thoughts before we move on to the last scene that we're doing today? Yeah, Elizabeth.
I just thought of those giant phones. Those early mobile phones that people used to use. And I like this idea on the phone of Timothy being like, John, John, John.
I like that, yeah.
That's good.
A different gag from the Puritan sect one, but a very good gag all the same. Right, scene 5 then. Enter Honesty, the sergeant, and Quick.
Fellow Quick, pray thee have a care. If thou canst see John the upholster, I must needs arrest him.
How much is the debt?
Some £50.
Dost thou think he's able to put in bail to the action?
I think scarce enough.
Why then, we'll arrest him to the Pope's head. Call for the best cheer in the house. First feed upon him, and then, if he will not come off, carry him to the Compter. But if he will stretch some £4 or £5, being the sum is so great, he shall pass. We'll make him swear he shall not tell he was arrested, and we'll swear to the creditor we cannot meet with him.
For God, thou sayest well.
I have served, sent the perfumer, Tallow the courier, Quarrel the glazier, and some 3 or 4 more of our poor Smeltso this morning.
Enter John.
Heart, I have coursed through 2 or 3 lanes, yet the mitching slave follows me so close I cannot give him the slip for this £100. As God save me, now 'tis in my hand, I'd rather be hanged than part from it. Foot, I will make a man tarry half a year together in France, command wenches or anything. Part from it, quoth you. There were a jest indeed. Shall a young man as I am, and though I say it indifferent proper, go into a strange country and not show himself what metal he is made of when it comes there? I protest a very good £100. £100 will go far in France, and for £100, £100 will go far in France. And a man hath it not of his own, who should he make bold withal for it, if may not with his uncle? But see, if that thin-faced rogue come again, I must have a joke for him.
Enter Timothy. Pick up John.
Shall I pick up John?
Sure.
From start of this scene? Timothy, for all your forelong?
For all your forelong to and fro, by yea and nay, I'll follow you.
Will you? There should be sergeants hereabout. Will you? Lord, if it be thy will, and send me to hit at one, and if I do not show you a trick, thou shouldst be a sergeant by thy peering so.
Why, Master John, so I am.
Thou art happily met. I'm looking for one. What's thy name?
My name, Master John. I have been merry at your uncle's many a time. My name's Honesty.
The faith.
Nay, I'll assure you his name is Honesty, and I am Quick, his yeoman.
Honesty? Who the pox gave thee that name? But thou must do an office for mine uncle. Here, Quick, run thou before and enter the action. There's money, an addition of £100 against Timothy Thinbeard, Master Gresham's factor. I hope I shall teach you to dog me.
An action against Thinbeard, I go.
Exit.
Here, Honesty, here's money for thy arrest. Be sure to take good bail or clap him in jail. I hope I shall show you a trick.
Mum for that.
See where he is, God prosper it. Fasten upon him like a hungry dog upon a piece of meat. And if this be not a trick to catch a fool, a mere knave learn me, and I'll go to school.
I arrest you, sir.
Arrest me? Thou servant to Satan? At whose suit?
At your master's suit, Master Gresham.
Oh, God, for thy mercy. Master John! Master John!
Nay, this £100 hath other work in hand for me. You are in the devil's hands, and so agree.
Exit.
My good friend, now what must become of me?
Unless we shall to the tavern drink till you can send for bail, you must to the compter.
Is there no difference made betwixt the faithful and the unfaithful?
Faith very little in paying of debts, but if you be so holy, I marvel how you ran so far behind hand with your master.
I must confess I owe my master £500. How I came so, it is not fit to lay the sins of our flesh open to every eye. And you know the saying, 'tis bad to do evil, but worse to boast of it. Yet he above knows that sometimes as soon as I have come from Bow Church, I have gone to a bawdy house.
Nay, it appears so, that now your master hath smelt out your knavery.
Not to commit in very deed, good friend, but only to see fashions, or to recreate and stir up our drowsy appetites.
Enter Quick.
Well, here comes my fellow Quick, and unless you will content us for staying, you must along to the compter.
I hope you think the labourer is worthy of his hire. We will stay here at the tavern, and, Quick, I will content thee to carry a letter to my master, wherein I will make him a restitution of his £500 by repentance, and show him the way that my frail nature have run into.
Well, be paid by the hour.
It will not be amiss if you buy an hourglass.
Excellent. Okay, so in that scene, we learned that Honesty and Quick are happy to accept bribes rather than arresting someone. John is in fact going to steal his uncle's money, and Timothy, the honest Puritan, is a hypocrite who goes to brothels after work and has been embezzling funds to do so. Any thoughts? Alan?
Yeah, it's not after work he's going to the brothel, it's after church.
No, after church, you're right.
Even
Right?
worse.
Even worse.
He goes to Bow Church and then to the Bawdy House.
Eric?
No, I didn't have anything to add. I was just,
Oh, it was just a gesture.
gesticulating.
I think we might as well move on into final thoughts for this play so far. I admit I'm a little disappointed. There has been no queen starring since, as princess, she starred in the entire previous play.
Doing different things.
Bryony, do you have?
I was just going to say they're obviously like buses in reverse. Well, last week we had 2, and this week none.
Final thoughts, anyone? Do you want me to go around, or does?
Yeah, go around.
Okay, Bryony, is that your final thought, or shall I come back to you?
No, I think just, yeah, I'm interested to see what it's doing. There's been a lot of extra historical stuff, which has been interesting for us to read, but I'm not sure how well it would carry over in a production to an audience. So yeah, I'm saving my judgment for the next session.
Yeah. Rachel, any final thoughts?
I don't know so far. I think it's I don't know so far. It's interesting. It's doing something very different from the last play, and I don't want to judge this one based on the last play just because they share the same name. But I'm not as familiar with these characters if this is a historical play too.
Lynn, any thoughts?
Yeah, I've just actually been thinking about Eric's observation that this place seems really concerned with clothing, which it is, and it kind of, maybe we should bear in mind that clothing had a rather different significance at this point. For one thing, before the Industrial Revolution, clothing was much more expensive relative to a person's income. So, I mean, you remember a few months ago in the Two Ladies of London, or Two Lords and Two Ladies of London, one of the characters was going to pawn her gown to pay rent. That's not ridiculous. That people did pawn clothing. And so lodging was relatively cheaper. Clothing and food were relatively more expensive than they are today. So yes, and the government was always trying to regulate what people wore because they wanted clothing to be a transparent, a legible signaler of class. So yeah, clothing really had a lot of significance and a lot of just sort of a lot of social weight that it doesn't maybe so much today. Just something to bear in mind.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts from you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I really like the characters in this. I feel like it's a very much a character-driven play. It's doing very different things, like Alan said, to the first part. The first part was more about the tensions between Mary and Elizabeth, and the tensions between perhaps Mary and Philip as well. Whereas this one is to do with more what Gresham's world is like, and it's giving us an insight into what I believe would be Elizabeth's reign, even though Gresham says the king He said the king's life, which is weird because I thought that Gresham was.
I think he's talking about the King of Barbary.
Oh, the King of Barbary. Okay, good, cool. That makes sense. Yeah, so I think that the characters are really well drawn. It's a very wordy play, whereas the last one had a little bit more physicality to it, a little bit more show rather than tell. This one is kind of a bit more about the intrigue between the merchant class almost, and sort of I think it's sort of political in terms of what it's saying about money and how money is changing hands in Elizabethan England.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and the more I see of it, I mean, as I've said, you could actually cast a number of these as being city slickers and pick your own period. And Tawny Coat, I must admit, I was getting a mental image of Del Boy. You know, that sort of likely lad scam merchant, you know, who's going around selling tat at as high a price as he can get away with, and not asking too many questions about how it was acquired.
Yeah. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, the peddler character is probably the guy who appears in the Peddler's Prophecy, where he's just trying to sell a rock, but that you never see the rock. It's just hidden in the bag, but you have to buy it first. And an imaginary rock. We don't really know what happens with that rock anyway.
We've seen peddlers of dubious honesty in a lot of plays.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's an interesting insight because I wasn't here last week, so it's interesting to come back in on part 2 and then just find that this is not really, there's no it's not a sequel in the sense that we have today. It's fun, although I'm kind of a bit lost in the whole legal battles type things. Yeah.
Helen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we do it harm to be constantly comparing it with what's called part 1, which I think is quite a separate entity. Gresham is a historical figure. The Dean of Paul's, Dr. Noel, is historical. I'm not sure about Ramsay. I've never heard of him, but he may very well be historical. I mean, I see it less as a history play and more like a city comedy.
I think city comedy is very right. I mean, we have on the one hand Ramsay and Knowles at the highest end of the social hierarchy, and then all the way down to Quick, presumably, and the apprentices of Hobson, who will be at the lower end. And everybody's dealing with questions of ethics and profit and status constantly.
And risk.
Yeah.
And the inadvisability of involving lawyers in anything.
Yeah. I think this is one of these plays that really suffers from the first look approach. It doesn't thrive under it. If we picked more at who these people were and what their interactions were, I think it would come alive for us more.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Thank you all. That was a really fascinating text. It was great delving into it with you. Let me see if I can remember how I'm supposed to finish these sessions. Well, thank you all for your time. These have been our wonderful readers. Let's have a cheesy wave and say goodbye.
Bye.
Now, your Puritan's poker is not so huge, but somewhat longer.